Hello and welcome back to another God brand video. Today we are doing the follow-up to the last video, which was the last Luffy video I should say. And I have to say I did not deliver on my promise of making a painting tutorial for this. My deadline just ran out. I ran out of time. I had to crunch and just lock in for a week and pretty much do the entire painting in that week. I got so caught up on the post-processing that I just didn't have time to record and paint it before Christmas. So I apologize for that, and instead I'm just going to be going over what I used to paint, showing what paint I used, and yeah, just kind of highlighting what I did and how I got the results, etc. And yeah, gotta apologize again. It is not what I initially promised, but this is all I have for you. Also, ignore the random phone aspect ratios mixed in between the regular 16:9 aspect ratios. I'm just trying to find all the different stuff that I filmed. Some of it was intended for, phone viewing, and then some of the stuff I did remember to film was for like the YouTube format, so just ignore that if you can. And now moving on to the actual video. So these are the paints I used. This is almost all of them, it's most of them. And as you can see, it's a lot of Vallejo rattle cans. That was what I used for like the base of most of this, and then I moved on to like the smaller colors through airbrushes for details. Starting off with filler primer, this is the brand I used. I did try a cheaper one, but this one ended up being far more useful, covered better, was more expensive. This cost me roughly $25 each. Now, starting off with how I do my normal size statues, I did the skin tones first. It doesn't say it on here, but this is Barbarian Flesh Tone from the Army Painter, and that's what I used as a base. And then I used this Pale Flesh from Vallejo, and I lightly peppered that on over the Barbarian Flesh. The Barbarian Flesh was a complete coverage, and then this Pale Flesh Tone was just a peppering over the top. I also used this medium flesh tone, kind of like how I would in a normal sized quarter scale, through an airbrush, just to bring it all together, like blend it together really nicely. And then also this tan, made for the perfect shade in between where like the abs go, the recesses, to like shape and shape out those abs and really just bring in the definition. It was really, really good. Next I used this blue. This was just blasted over the pants. I think I emptied a full can just filling the pants up. And then I grabbed this nice deep mystic blue, and I shot this into the recesses as the shadows just to add a bit more depth. And then, as you would expect, I used a brighter blue again over the tops of the creases as like the highlights. For the blue, it wasn't that noticeable, but I still wanted to add the detail anyway. Onto the yellow of the pants and like the lacy thing. I used this Vallejo rattle can. I forget the name of it, but it was what I used to cover the entire thing. And then I used Yandan yellow to go into the recesses. And then this Bad Moon contrast, which is super bright. I used that as a highlight, and that brought out a much more contrasty effect on the pants than the blue did. I used this desert yellow to brush onto the thongs or his shoes. I also used this dirty yellow vehicle wash for the thongs and the hat, mostly the hat though, and I used the same yellow steps as before as for the hat. And to further bring out the dirtiness of the thongs, I used this brown Tamiya panel line. Actually worked really well. I should also mention I used this basic skin tone on the fingernails and toenails, and also a little bit through the airbrush over like the skin, just a little bit. This was the gold I used for the buttons on the jacket. I just brushed these on over several coats. Now for the hungriest part of this model, gory red rattle cans. I used 3 of these bitches to fully coat the jacket. It was hungry. I also used it for the red band around the hat. And I know it doesn't seem like much, but that was basically it for the body. I used this satin. It doesn't matter which satin in particular, but I use this one for the most part. And this was the little formula I had for the base. This is pretty much what I use. I might use something else here or there, but for the most part, we just use this Vallejo brown, Beastie brown, and I peppered that over, and then I just dry brushed up the lighter tones with those other 2 colors I got here, and that was it. Didn't take too much. It's the same way you would do any rocky base on a quarter scale, so keep it simple, y'all. Now for the clouds coming off the base, I used this blue from Vallejo and just kind of lightly did that over the tops, and then I shot a little bit of grey in the creases, but I didn't push the contrast too heavy. I kind of just like left it very messy kind of on purpose. And any of the white or black you see across the model, like anything on the face, that was all just standard white or black. It could be anything, it doesn't have to be any particular brand, it's just fully black, fully white, and that was about it. Thank you for tuning in. I again am sorry that it wasn't what was expected, but time constraints. Luckily for my next project, I'm doing a Lara Croft. I'm going to be doing a very big, very cinematic video about that one, and I do not have time constraints for that one, so I will actually be producing a proper video, and it will be kickstarting off this new year and what I expect to put out on this channel going forward. I appreciate anyone that stood around and keeps coming back, and I'll see you all in the next one. Ta.